Alright, so, yeah, I'm not even going to try to lip sync. Sorry, I forgot to turn the power on my microphone, which is something that I might forget from time to time with my shotgun mics. That's a new feature here. But anyhow, this is day 6, so yeah, our skillet's been soaking in here for 6 whole days. And this is, again, the 500 milliliters of 10 molar sodium hydroxide that we prepared back on day 1. And the bag ruptured, saw that probably in earlier footage, and as a result we just dumped all that 500 milliliter solution into this bucket that already had just tap water in it. So it's diluted quite a bit, but as you've seen from the last couple of days, it remains perfectly effective to get this creosote and all the old seasoning and stuff off. So I think we're in pretty good shape, um, and at this point we're calling the skillet good. There is a tiny bit of shmoo left on there, but it is actually kind of pitted into the material, into the cast iron, so you can't feel it. You can see it, but you can't feel it. So for all intents and purposes, we're done. So again, you see a bunch of rust on the bottom of the skillet, and as we mentioned in an earlier video, you really can't get rid of rust with sodium hydroxide. It won't happen. You have to use either abrasives or an acid, and I really don't feel like using an acid on this just because it would be another night of soaking it in like 5% vinegar or something. And that's a waste of time. We can just, that's really small, thin layer of rust on there. I'm pretty sure we can just get rid of that with steel wool and dish soap and we'll be good to go. So I'm not going to bore you guys with watching me scrub this thing a little bit with the wire welding brush here. We're going to go ahead and skip on to the next video. Alright, so we are in the sink. Rinsed it off to get the majority of the sodium hydroxide solution out of there back in the utility sink, so I didn't bring that over into the kitchen, dripping on the floor, etc. And at this point, let's go ahead and get some dish soap in here, scrub the heck out of this thing with some steel wool, and yeah, this works really, really well for getting surface rust off of a lot of things, frankly. And I'm not really using coarse steel wool. This is quadruple aught. This is the finest stuff that you can get. And yeah, as you can see, it makes a nice lather and doesn't take much work at all. Not much elbow grease to get the rust off of here. Okay, so here we are after rinsing it off real quick. So there's some rust we still need to get rid of, but very little, frankly. But we do still have to braze on little feet, or figure out some other means of getting the warp out of this thing with aggressive heat or something. But as you can see, it is a truly remarkable transformation from the disaster of the skillet that we had before. Here you can see on the right side there is where I'm pointing here, there's definitely some pitting from rust. But all things considered, based on how this thing looked when we picked it up at the store, I'm not going to worry about that. Steel wool and dish soap again will take care of that, and we're not going to get tetanus or anything from this thing. So yeah, you can see there was some pitted creosote or seasoning or whatever in here that is not going to get removed. It's below the bulk surface level, so even though you can see it, you can't feel it. So it's just really not something that I'm going to bother soaking this for another day to get rid of. We're just gonna move on. So at this point, we are going to go ahead and walk you guys through what I've done for the heat treatment in order to attempt to get the warp out of this thing. Yeah, spoiler alert, didn't work, but I'm going to show you what I tried anyhow. So hang on a second. This is not how I wanted to fix this, ladies and gentlemen, but at this point, it's in the name of science. Here's our Lodge cast iron skillet. We got her warmed up. I'm going to try to put it on this cast iron grate and put some weight on the warped area and see if we can hopefully get that dent out. I don't have an awful lot of hope at this point. It's not a huge investment. It's only 15 bucks, but I hate destroying antiques. But I don't see any other way. Stay tuned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I don't have video footage of this whole process because it was quite unplanned and sporadic and just trying to fly by the seat of my pants to solve a problem that I didn't really know if it was solvable in the first place. So just to kind of walk you guys through what I actually had to put this skillet through to attempt to get the warpage out. I began in my garage with my acetylene oxygen torch, heated up that area until it was, visibly glowing red, not super bright red, but just until it was glowing. And then I put just a simple, roughly 5-pound mass of steel, kind of a puck, stuck that on there as a piece of bar stock cut off, and set it on there and let it cool down, and wanted to see if maybe it would absorb heat from the warped area, the crown. I had the skillet upside down at this point, and see if it would absorb that heat and maybe influence it to unwarp, because I figure the warp came on by maybe too sudden of a application of heat, so maybe removing heat very quickly would do the trick. That didn't work. Then I tried heating it up again with the torch and setting it on a block of wood, and then putting weight on top of it. I've got a couple sections of forklift tine that I got for free from work, and each of those pieces is about probably 30 pounds. I didn't weigh them, but I'm pretty good at guessing. I'd say that was probably a total of 60 pounds that I put on the skillet. So the skillet, the crown where it was warped, was facing down on a piece of wood. It was like a section of a tree stump that I cut off with my chainsaw. Then I put the forklift tine material on the rim of the skillet, forcing it down until it cooled down. And nope, that did not work. I think I tried that 1 or 2 more times, and then I said, okay, at this point in time, we need to put this thing in the forge. So you guys just saw the forge footage where I heated this thing up till the entire skillet, except for the handle, was glowing bright red. And I did a series of experiments of, setting the skillet upside down on my anvil and putting weight on the crown of the warp. Again, using these forklift tine sections, so about 60 pounds total weight on there, and letting it cool down. That didn't do anything to the warp. Then I tried putting the skillet upside down, heating it up again, of course, putting it upside down on a section of log that I cut off that fit inside, the inner flat bottom of it, so that the flat bottom of the skillet was supported. And the skillet is facing upside down on this stump of wood, glowing red hot. And then I put, again, on the crown of the warp, that steel puck from the beginning that I mentioned that was like 3-4 pounds, something like that. I put that on the crown of the warp, and then I put the 60 pounds of forklift tine material on there and let it cool down. That did not work. The warp was completely unchanged. And then the coup de grace, I heated it back up until the entire skillet was bright red hot again. Stuck it on that same log again, put the puck on there, put the 60 pounds of forklift tine on there, and then I stood on it, and I weigh about 210 pounds. So do the math, that's about 275 pounds of downward force focused on the crown of that warp. And I don't know what's more impressive, the fact that the skillet warp did not change, or the fact that the skillet didn't just crack under that much stress, but it didn't do anything. So at that point in time, it was abundantly clear that there is no way to get a warp out of a cast iron skillet. So I did what I originally planned on doing and took it into the garage again, grabbed the acetylene oxygen torch, and brazed on the 3 little feet. And as you can see here in the coming footage, I think it worked out pretty well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Skillet is done. So let's have a close look at what we've got, and let's go ahead and cook me some dinner because I'm hungry. Alright, so here we are. I think I mentioned it in the initial video introducing the whole project that when we finished, we would be cooking on an unseasoned skillet because like I pointed out in, I think, June of 2021, I don't bother seasoning skillets anymore, like on the stovetop or in the oven or what have you, because I proved in June of 2021 in a couple videos that I did that intentional seasoning is a waste of time. All you have to do is just use the skillet and seasoning will come. So yeah, there's no seasoning on here. This is basically as it came out of the lye bath. I mean, it'd probably be nice if I sanded it and shined it up and everything like that, but I'm sure a lot of you guys would yell at me. Of course, you're going to yell at me for this, but the skillet is a user. So, as you can see on the fire ring, I think I'm pretty happy with the separation there, about 120 degrees of separation. We have 3 little dots that are brazing filler, so that's bronze, that I used my acetylene oxygen torch, heated up the skillet until this little localized area was hot enough that it would melt bronze, and yeah, threw those on there, and that takes care of the biggest problem of the skillet, which is the wobble. We're not wobbling anymore, so that helps a whole lot. It also takes the low spot here off of the stovetop, because if we didn't have the tripod set up there, then the low spot would be making direct contact with the stovetop at all times, and this would become a hot spot, whereas the other areas would not be as hot. So it helps with the uniformity. It's still going to be a little bit off because this is just closer to the heat source than the rest of it, but pretty sure we can work with that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a 3-egg omelet, which is probably going to be a bit thin because I usually do a 3-egg omelet in a number 5, which is a lot smaller than this, but I think we can work with that. I don't feel like doing fried eggs. I like skillet or omelets, so we're going to do an omelet, but it's going to demonstrate the exact same principle that the whole egg stick test thing that you guys are all hootenanny about. So let's go ahead and heat this up, throw some butter on there, and I'll come back to you when we've got butter good and hot. Okay, then we're there. Not sure how well you can tell on the camera that our butter is going brown, but just when it starts to turn color, my stovetop here is set at 6 out of 10. No, sorry, 6 out of 9. We're going to go ahead and drop that down now that we're getting ready to put our eggs in, because we don't need it to be that hot. I'm going to drop it to 3.5 and throw our eggs on there. And you hear, as soon as we did that, you could hear some sizzling action. That's important. That means that the water that's in the egg immediately went to steam. That's hugely important. If you don't hear that, then chances are pretty good your eggs are going to stick. And yeah, if you just saw that, you could see, let's zoom in here. See that? No stick. It's perfect. Proving my point that temperature is all you need to worry about for non-stick. Look at that, it's just dancing all over the place. It was really hot. All you need is temperature. You don't need ridiculous seasoning methods. Because there's a million YouTube videos out there telling you this is the best way to season a skillet. If you don't do it this way, you're wrong, you're an idiot, yada yada yada. It's all just nonsense. You do not need to season a skillet. If I got the proper temperature, I could cook this egg on a rock. A little bit of fresh ground black pepper and some fresh ground Mediterranean sea salt. And we're going to hook this up with cheese. Alrighty. Give that another minute or so. Periodically checking to see when the bottom starts to get ever so slightly browned. And then we'll be good to go. I'm going to turn the burner off. There's plenty of residual heat in the skillet. Perfect. So since we got a really thin skillet here, I'm going to kind of roll it. See how this works out. It's really hot and not super comfortable. Oh, it's gorgeous. I mean, that could have gone a little bit better rolling it, but I think you guys get the point. Nothing's stuck behind. Perfect. Nothing stuck. It is perfect. So that's it for you guys, and for me, it's time to eat dinner. A gorgeous omelet. Simple, just butter, 3 eggs, salt, pepper, and cheddar cheese. And I'm hungry, so thank you very much for watching. I really hope you guys have enjoyed the rather lengthy preparation of this skillet and restoration of it to take this thing from the brink of getting thrown into a scrap bin in all reality and putting it back on the stovetop for use. So there's going to be a whole lot of cooking to be done on this thing, and it'll last in this condition longer than I will. So just take that as a note when you're walking through an antique store and you see a completely dejected train wreck of a skillet, and you just might have a completely restorable piece there that you can get for dirt cheap. So thank you guys again for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe. I'd really like for this video to kind of get out there so people can, you know, see my methods and see how this all worked out, and get a good demonstration of, you know, how far a skillet can come from being a complete disaster to being back in the kitchen. So we will catch you on the next video. Bye now.